Hi everyone, welcome. So today is reminder day. So I'm going to remind you to expect good things. That is the message that I feel like I had to keep paying attention to this week. It was a reminder for me to expect good things, and that is something that if you believe or have watched and um, just believe in the law of attraction and watching the Secret or anything like that, or reading the book, it's about you could expect good things. So, what does that mean and what does it not mean? So, it means that you are allowed to know that good things happen and you could expect good things happen. What does that not mean? It does not mean, even though it kind of sounds like um, it does not mean that you are constantly expecting something from the future, that you're not living in the present moment. So, how do we do that? How do we expect good things? Well, it's this idea of when something happens, you know that everything's going to work out. You know that things are working out for you. You know that things are going to end up working out. It doesn't mean you don't take any action, because sometimes you might need to take some action, but learning to trust in the, okay, I think this is going to work out, and I could send that vibration out to the universe, or I could step into that feeling and vibration, and it's going to work out. Or knowing that, okay, I need to send this email, or I need to contact this person, or I need to be patient right now just for the next few hours or a few minutes or a few days. But that that is also what that entails, expecting good things to happen. So living, if you're going to choose expecting good or anticipating, oh, something bad's going to happen because nothing bad's happened in a while or something like that, why not choose the good one, the good things, and live in that space? And depending on what state you're in at the moment, or in life, or what you've gone through, maybe you need to do this a few more times, a few more practices than maybe someone else. But it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that everyone is doing this at different parts and stages of their life. And maybe someone that did it years ago and it was easy for them to expect good things, they went through different things in life, and now reminding them of that is is showing them that, like, oh, they need to take practice in that again, to expect good things, because maybe they've got into the habit of anticipating not so great things. And and that is nothing to be upset about in any way. It's just life, and your brain is often just protecting you and just trying to save you in some way. And so it develops habits and ways to try to cope. And so, and that's just like a general statement, because, for every single person, it's very specific and different. So I can't make specific, direct comments um, about any one specific situation, obviously, right now. So, what does expect good things also come like look like? It could look like you find a penny, if in your country they still, circulate pennies, but sometimes you still find pennies, or sometimes dimes, or like 10 cents, or 5 cents, or whatever you call it, just different types of coins. It's like, oh wow, like you find a penny, or a, a, a change, some type of change. You're like, wow, like good things do happen. Like, wow. And so embracing that feeling. And so taking that vibration and that frequency, and you just get a little bounce in your step almost, you know? And so another way this could look like is a call from someone you've been thinking of. So maybe you've been thinking about someone that day, within that minute even, and they call you, and it's someone that you want to talk to, perhaps. But even if it's not someone you want to talk to, doesn't mean you have to pick up, but just being like, wow, like there's like this magical universe, even though there's so much science behind it, and perhaps the science is not caught up yet, the science that we that we have at our disposal, the type of tools we have in science. Maybe it's not caught up yet, but there's something to that like there's someone in some other country on the other side of the world, and you think about them and they call at the time that you think about them. Or when you call someone and you've been thinking about them and you decide to call them and they say, wow, like I really needed to talk to you or to talk to someone, and I'm so glad you called in this moment. It really helped me. Or sending them a message just because you felt like you needed to. So stuff like that, and they tell you that like, wow, I really needed this message right now. You have no idea, and it doesn't mean you need confirmation or anything from anyone else, but it's also just nice to do that. And then the more you also start doing these little things, you also start trusting yourself and trusting what your intuition may sound or feel like as well, depending on what type of intuition is more heightened within you at that time. Because as many know, like you could strengthen it and grow it, and gain access to other types of intuitive abilities that we all have access to. By the way, everyone has access to it. There's not one person that's more special. Maybe someone has more heightened gifts and whatnot, and it doesn't mean that that person is better than anyone else or that they're more pure or anything. It just means like they have access to that ability and they're using it, but you have your own abilities and you could have access to that as well. And sometimes I find that like even though like if we have access to it, we are using it, but we've switched it around. And instead of like knowing that this is a red flag, we think of it as a green flag. So we are listening to it, but we've just mixed up the signals and the definitions. Okay, so what else does expect good things look like? It could look like when something happens, you know that it's going to work out, like I mentioned, but it doesn't mean that you don't think that like anything bad ever happens. And then if something bad happens, that, oh my God, I'm in such like a good high calm vibration that this is going to bring me down. So that's especially when you're a bit new to this, or even during certain times in your life, if you've gone through this before and you know that this does work, it's about knowing that like, okay, well, I'm allowed to process these emotions. Like if I'm upset about something, it's okay if these emotions come up, but there's different like filters. I don't know if you've heard people say or talk about, I think there was like a saying about it. It's like how don't say the first thing that comes to your mind, say the second thing. So that's not like true, like it's not a statement that's true for everyone, but it's this general idea that we could look at that has this understanding that, well, a thought comes up and we need to maybe filter it, because sometimes maybe we're just throwing everything that comes like to our mind, to our thoughts, and we're grabbing it and thinking that that's us. It's just like, well, I'm thinking those things, I believe those things, but it's just like, do you really believe those things? If you sat down and looked at what kind of person you are and stuff, it's just like, well, I'm a kind, loving person and I don't ever want to hurt anyone. Well, these thoughts and these things that come up and you're putting out there and saying to someone is hurting someone. So it's like, well, what happens if I just don't say those things? So if you do that one or two times, especially with people that you feel like you have a hard time filtering, it's just like, okay, what if I'm more mindful? So before I meet them, I kind of like prime myself and say, okay, I always like say too much around them and I don't want to, because I just don't think it's good for the relationship. It's good for my professional career or whatever it is. And so, and maybe that person, maybe sometimes it's your intuition might also be telling you that like, this is not a good fit, but we're going to just take it as, because it depends for everyone's specific, like, and could mean something different for everyone. So maybe just before you meet them, you tell yourself, hey, I say too much when I'm around them, so I'm going to be more mindful. And you could even have like a cue, or you could like put something on your wrist, or your like jewelry, or just like, even hold your hands out like this, or just do something different, just to remind yourself to kind of keep present in the moment. And maybe you might not do it that well the first time or the second or third, but at least you're trying. So letting like whatever you want to say just come out of your mouth. You just say like, okay, I'm just going to not talk and listen more today. When I talk to them, I'm just going to listen more than I speak. And so then you could, and then when you leave, you might end up feeling like, well, you might have a lot of different emotions because it might be the first time that you've done that in a while. And so, but in general, it's just this idea that like, well, oh, I can stop myself from saying that. And oh, this felt better overall when I look back, because I could tell that I, didn't start an argument because I didn't filter my words, perhaps, or, just stuff like that. So, so yeah. So going back to expecting good things, even though it's like the word and phrase is expect good things, it's really about still staying mindful and present in the moment. You still want to be mindful and present. So it's about like when something happens, I could still expect good things to come out of this. It doesn't mean like, oh, nothing, like, it might, like, it doesn't mean that like, oh, let's, God forbid, but like something bad happens right after that, and just like, well, I expected good things. Why didn't it happen? Well, it's okay. Maybe that's also trying to teach you something. And so how do you like, allow the process and the emotions that need to come up and whatnot come through, but still filter yourself through different lenses of, okay, well, what can I do about this? What lesson maybe needs to be learned, or maybe right now I can't see the lesson in it and it's okay, but I always know I'm protected and guided. And having a foundation is really good. So that's why like these daily practices and stuff, and people ground themselves, even just like walking on grass. I've talked about, I don't know if I actually put it up actually, but I can put it up. It's about even touching trees, and just obviously being in nature. People have spoken about being around water, and just like different ways to try to calm yourself and stay in that type of base. Like that's your foundation. And so when these things happen, it's like that's happening, and like there's 24 hours in a day. Let's say like you're awake a certain amount of hours. Well, that's happening and it's a piece of your day. Maybe it took up more of your time and stuff, but having your daily foundation in your practices, your gratitude, your meditation, even if you didn't have it before, like you could start at any point, going to YouTube, saying like 2-minute meditation, 5-minute meditation, guided meditation, I would recommend if you're just starting out. And so, more heart coherence meditation, breathing techniques, different types of breathing techniques like Wim Hof and stuff. So, but anyway, so different types of stuff that you could do to have like a foundation so that you could keep things in perspective, that like that's not your life, that thing that happened to you. And so you could have the foundation, you come back to your foundation, your baseline, and try to increase your frequency. And so that that thing that's happening, you could still deal with it, and whatnot, but it's not your all day, every day, and you're not allowing your thoughts to constantly think about it all day, every day. You could put it during for a certain time and period. It's just like, okay, well, it keeps coming up and whatnot, so I'm going to dedicate a certain period of time to think about or strategize about it, feel into what I need to do. If I'm able, if that's what I'm used to doing, or talk to someone that I trust that could help me in this situation and whatnot. But yeah, overall, like having that foundation is going to be also very helpful, because you want to increase your frequency. And this is not just like, oh, this is such woo woo or spiritual like talks and stuff. I do believe that like spirituality and psychology are two sides of the same coin. So a lot of things in psychology are things that like in spirituality have been talked about for however many hundreds or thousands of years for some things. And then, now or at some point they had the tools, or the time and money and research to be able to test those things and see that like, oh, well, yeah, these things work. And so it's not to discount one or the other, but it's just to know that like something that like it's it's not about, oh my god, these don't work. It's, I say frequency and I say energy, but like the mind, like studying psychology, it's like the mind is so powerful. Placebo effects, this idea of like, giving one group like a sugar pill, or like let's say a pill that like has nothing in it, and the other one telling them that it does and whatnot, and seeing how that affects them, and how the body and the mind and everything starts believing that it's working, and how that could have like a huge effect on the overall health of the person, is a big deal in psychology and a lot of studies, because it's like, oh wow, the mind is that powerful. The mind can do a lot of things that we still today are still trying to figure out. And so frequency, energy, whatnot, it's just all about like increasing that positivity in the mind, because when you're able to see more clearly, you're able to it's almost like opening up that part of the brain where you're able to be calm and think more creatively and see more possibilities, right? Like you see more possibilities when you're motivated, and you feel good, and you feel energized in a certain way that feeling like fearful and stuff doesn't. But some would argue that like, no, when I'm like, an hour before deadline, or when something bad happens, I think so strategically and blah, blah, blah. And so sometimes those people are also even afraid of meditating and whatnot, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, because they're afraid that their brain is going to be changed and they won't be able to think that same way, and that the strategies that they use for work and stuff is going to be gone, because they're going to be too calm and won't be thinking as fast. But what ends up happening, maybe there's like a period where like there's a transition period for some, but what ends up happening is that you become more calm, and you have more access to like your intuition and ideas that like you're like, wow, where did that come from? Like you had a question to something and you're just like, huh, and you do creative things, and you stay in like a fun, joyful, energized state and motivated state, and like all of a sudden the answer to that problem comes, and you're just like, wow, like I didn't even have to like focus or think about it, like things like that also happen. Or you bump into someone that ends up talking about that thing that you needed an answer to, and you're just like, what? Like synchronicities and stuff like that end up happening all the time. And I know, because that's how my life is. And so it's just like that same idea of like when they say, oh, when you buy a car, let's say you buy like a Honda, and then all of a sudden like a red Honda, then all of a sudden you see a red Honda everywhere, and you're just like, I thought I was being different and I was the only one who had a red Honda. But it's this idea that like, well, when you're focusing on something, you'll start seeing it everywhere, right? Like in these, again, like these are studies and research in psychology that are also tested, but people could look into those types of research as well, if they'd like. But So let's go back to like expecting good things and just keeping in mind that like when, even though like the phrase is like expect good things, we still want to stay in the present moment. We don't want to be creating a habit of being in the future, or just anticipating something all the time, because that like anticipating good or bad is like, you know, you could also create a habit that could also mimic anxiety perhaps for some people. So it's this idea that like when something happens, you're like, wow, like that's so great. And you just know that something great's just gonna always keep happening for you. And if something happens that's not so great, you're just like, I know that this is happening for me, you know. And like great mentors and stuff that like I've studied, like they they constantly focus on that idea of like looking at something as like it's happening for you. It's not happening to you, or nothing's trying to punish you or anything. There could be like a lesson in it, but it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, I attracted this frequency that because I'm thinking negative thoughts. Like, sure, maybe you had some thoughts that came up that day that weren't so great, but it doesn't mean necessarily that you attracted it for that reason. It could just come back into your life, even though like you've learned that lesson before and just like, I thought I've learned that lesson, why is the universe teaching me this again? It could just simply come back into your life just to show you that, hey, you see it now more clearly, this lesson, and you don't have to engage with it the same way. It could just simply be that. And that could feel great and empowering too, to know that like, oh, I don't have to go into like, oh my God, I like into that fearful state of like, oh my God, the universe is teaching me this again because I didn't learn it. It's just like, well, wow, this is happening for, like, what if we think like, wow, this is happening for me? Like, wow, thanks universe, thanks for bringing this into my awareness again, to remind me that like I've grown a lot. You know, like that's a totally different type of mentality and mindset and energy, right? So I'm going to interchange those words, so you understand that like it's not this like, you know, fake way of life. There's it's this way of looking at things, and it's a mindset, it's a psychology of things. And so so yeah, so knowing that it's happening for you, but still allowing emotions when you need to, not suppressing things, talking to the right people when you need to, professional or online resources, making sure you get the best, like trying to get good resources online. And then still question it, even if you talk to a professional or a good resource, making sure that you're the last person who makes the decision, because that's going to be really important for your future, so that you're not relying on people as a crutch either. Just want to throw that in there. And just going to write that down because I feel like I need to go into that another time. And yeah, so living in the present, expecting good things when things happen, and yeah, just knowing that like the moment is important, the staying in the present is important. That's why like when things take your attention and stuff like that, like social media and stuff, you end up like noticing that like if you're scrolling through things really fast, especially like videos, quick videos, and videos of people like stopping and turning on and off their phone, so it has like cuts like in the clip, but it's like, but they're continuing their sentence, I guess, but they're like pressing stop and go, or start and stop. And so those types of things kind of screw up your attention span. So it's okay to notice that, like, oh, today or this week I've been on it a while. So what could I do? What kind of barriers could I do to make myself more in the present moment? Because I feel like I need to be on my phone before bed, or I feel like I need to grab my phone in the morning. And I know that that's not good for me and that's not who I am. and the type of person that I am or who I want to be, that my higher self version, who I'm bringing into existence right now, is the type of person who wakes up and does A, B, C, or whatnot, or just A. And so yeah, so yeah, so just overall, like today, this message, I thought it would be a bit shorter, but it's just this idea of like expect good things, look at the world with a different point of view and different perspective. So even if you have to put like a post-it note, I'm a big fan of post-it notes. I teach people a lot about putting post-it notes everywhere. I have these little ones and I put everywhere, and I just put like 5 or 6 new ones up today. I even switched a couple out that I have had for like a long time, just because the wording was, I noticed after a while of using it that I'm like, oh, I feel like I've grown out of this affirmation, and I need to evolve it into something that's even more representative of who I am right now. And so that was really cool and fun to do, because it makes me feel good, because I also put them like near my spice jars, or places that like are safe and sanitary, but places that like I will see throughout the day, and places that like, it's not like, oh, I'm stressed out and I go into this area when I'm grabbing things and I'm on a go. It's places that like, oh, I'm just more, I'm not doing those types of stressful type of movements, which I'm usually not, but I don't put it in places where like I've ever grabbed things quickly and are rushing. It's places where like I'm opening, I'm looking, like my spice jar, and taking my time, because I want to associate the affirmations with like the calm and the peace and stuff like that. And it's just reminding me the affirmations of like, even like one of them is something about expecting good things. I don't know how I worded it. I need to double check, but this idea of like, I always expect good, or like try to keep it more in the present moment, is like good things always happen for me. And then like thinking of a time where it does, perhaps. And so it's like, well, how is that still being in the present moment? Well, it's just putting myself in those places where I'm not associated with stressful things, and it's not 100% present in that second or moment, but I'm using that as a way to retrain my thoughts throughout the day, that those are the types of thoughts I want to have if I'm having thoughts. And then the rest of the time, I'm focused on the present moment. I'm trying to be as mindful as possible throughout most of my day. And I'm still human, so I still might do things that seem like multitasking, but they're actually like, not that present. But most of my day is present, and I feel good throughout my day, which is important. And so yeah, so I want you to try this out. If it's not the post-it note, but I would really try out the post-it note, or having like a notification on your phone, or sending a text message to yourself and don't open it. So the next time you walk out the door and you see it, your text message, you're just like, oh, right, I'm going to like prep myself before I go out, that like I'm going to expect good things. So you just like put yourself out into the world, and you're just like, wow, like even like the blossoming of a tree or a flower or something, or there was a flower on a tree. The rest, all the blossoms have fallen, but this one was there, and it was just like, wow, good things do happen, right? It's like about finding the little things and seeing the awe in it, and yeah, and that's gonna like prep you and prime you for other things in your life, especially if like you're at a place in your life, or right now, or this week or whatnot, is like, very calm and peaceful. It's even a better time to do it, because then you're like prepping and you're priming your foundation with the right amount of primer, let's say, or the right amount of, let's say, concrete for your foundation, so that It's not about like preparing for something bad to happen, but it's preparing this foundation that like, oh, I have, this is my stability, this is my peace, this is my baseline. So yeah, so expect good things, see the awe of just little things, and do it in a way that is true to you. So like, I've talked about it before, but this idea, not this idea, just saying like, wow, or wow, like I whisper it to myself, and in some of my post-its, I write wow, because that's how like when something that's like an aha moment, as Oprah has said, is like I say wow when something like that happens, or wow, like kind of like that. And so I want it to be real when I see the post-it note, and I go into that feeling and that emotion, to raise that ability, kind of like strengthening a muscle to be able to see things and see the awe in a lot of things in the world, and yeah, to make me and my brain feel good. But yeah, so I hope that helps, and I hope that you know that you are gonna have such great things gonna come into your life, um, and it's gonna come in such different ways. So let go of like this idea of like, oh, you only expect it to come in this way, like winning the lottery or this. Doesn't mean that that's not going to happen. It's just like, just know that like such great things are meant for you, like you're doing work to improve yourself, to because you know you deserve it. You know that like, why not have extra tools that help me and flourish me? And so you're on a like a really, really, really good path if you've made it here. And I hope that you know that you are meant to be here in this life and in this world. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.